This question comes from section 2.1. It says to solve this equation. And so let's take our whiteboard and let's do this equation. So in this equation, we have fractions. And so it would be best to clear the fractions in order to work with this. So we have denominators of 4 and 7. So I want to find out what would be my least common multiple. So I'm going to take and I'm going to create my least common multiple table. And let's do that over here. The two denominators that I have are 4 and 7. If I prime factor 4 out, it is the same as 2 times 2. 7 doesn't have, it is a prime number. It doesn't have any factors of 2, but it has a factor of 7. And so looking at this, my least common multiple for the denominator would be made up of the highest of each of these columns, the highest number of factors. So 2 times 2 and 7. So this will form my least common denominator, which would be 28. And this is what I will use to multiply everything by in that equation so that I can clear the denominators. The other way that we looked at these in class was we could take the two denominators, 4 and 7, and we can list out the multiples. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. And so I could do it like that. 32, and it continues on forever. And then I take 7 and I list out those multiples. So the multiples of 7 are the numbers when you're adding by 7, or you take 7 times 1, 7 times 2, 7 times 3, 7 times 4, and so on. So when I look at this, I can see that I do have a common multiple, and the least common one is 28. So that is another way to approach these problems. So let's go back to the problem itself. And I'm doing that so that I can find the right number to multiply my equation by to clear the denominators. So to clear those fractions. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by 28. And that means I multiply each term here by 28. So it's going to be 28 times x plus 6 over 4. It's going to be 28 times 1. And it's going to be 28 times x plus 1 over 7. Now, the point of multiplying by that least common denominator is to clear the fraction. So the number that's in the denominator should factor into this number. 4 goes into 28 7 times. And so over here I'll be left with 7 times x plus 6. On this side, this one, 28 times 1 is just 28. And then here, 7 goes into 28 4 times, and I'll be left with minus 4 times x plus 1. So now this is the equation that I will work with. This equation is a much easier equation to work with than the equation that had all those denominators. So, but I do have to remember I have to distribute the 7 and I have to distribute the negative 4 to these two. And so when I distribute the 7, I will get 7x plus 42. And then I will get 28 minus 4x minus 4. Now that I've done that, I'm going to look for like terms on either side of this equal sign. Here I don't have any like terms. Here I do. 28 and minus 4, those are both numbers, so I can combine them to give me 24. Now, the next step is to combine all the variables on one side and all the constants or the numbers on the other. So I have two terms that have variables, 7x and negative 4x. So I'm going to move this across the equal sign. And when I move it across the equal sign, I have to say this is negative 4x. So I'm going to add 4x. What I have here, I have to do the opposite of in order to go across the equal sign. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides, and I will now get 11x plus 42 is equal to 24. Now, I will now look at moving my numbers, my constants, all over to one side. And because I have 42 here, this is a positive 42, I do the opposite. And I'm doing the opposite so that I can keep this equation balanced. And 24 minus 42, well, let's do that. So I'm just going to put in my calculator. I get negative 18. So now let's go back to my whiteboard. So I end up with negative 18. And now last, because I want 11 by 11, this is 11 times x, and I want x by itself, I do the opposite of multiplying by 11. I divide both sides by 11. And I end up with negative 18 over 11. So this is the number I'm going to put in there. The reason why I'm going to put this and not a decimal is because in the MyLab Math, it says the solution set is, and then it says type an integer or a fraction. So I need to type the fraction, negative 18 divided by 11. Now, I also would like to check my work. Whenever I do these equations, I should always check my work. So I'm going to go to my calculator and use my calculator to help me. So I have to go back to the original. Always go back to the original. You don't want to go to another form, but you want to go to the original. And in place of the x, erase the x, and then put in what you came up with. Negative 18 over 11, negative 18 over 11. And then use the calculator and see if this left side is equal to the right side. We want to make sure that this equal sign is true. So now with the calculator, you could do it like this. It might be easier if you take negative 18 over 11, hit enter, take this number and hit the store button. You'll find the STO arrow sign to the left of the number 1. STO arrow to the left of the number 1. And I'm going to store this as X. X is to the right alpha. Hit enter. So it stores it as X. So now I can just type in X plus 6 divided by 4. This is the left side of the equation. The left side of the equation is this when I plug in my answer. So on the right side, I should get the same value. Now, actually, I made a mistake here. And it's a good idea to look at this mistake I made. I did x plus 6 over 4. And really what I should have done was put parentheses. So this is a good error to make because this is a common error. If you don't surround that numerator with parentheses, then it's going to take x and add 6/4 to it. And that's not what we wanted. So the left side is actually 1.09. So that is the correct answer on the left side. Now I'm going to go to the right side and make sure that I get 1.09 on the right side. So 1 minus, and then again I'm going to do x with the parenthesis around it, x plus 1 divided by 7. And I get the same thing for both sides. Then I can say for sure that I did this correctly. So since I got a 1.09 here, and I got 1.09 here, I know there was more numbers there, but just doing approximation, then I can say that negative 18 over 11 was the correct answer. And so this would be, you would choose letter A, and then you would put this in like this.